I'm thinking of YouTube. If you're new to my page, my name is Valerie Matisse, and I teach and guide women to return to themselves and process difficult emotions so that they can reclaim their innocence and return to their feminine essence. And so today, I wanted to talk about emotional depth over intelligence, because I've been talking about utilizing oxytocin over dopamine, which these kind of go hand in hand, because dopamine will fuel emotional intelligence versus oxytocin will ask you to go deeper and it'll support emotional depth. Hey, Alicia Pisha. So I was kind of just doing a quick little intro of today I'm going to be talking about emotional intelligence over emotional depth. So like, we can be emotionally intelligent or emotionally aware, but not know how to feel our feelings, which then leads to us still avoiding how we feel, which I think keeps us stuck or small in a way that doesn't really allow for real change. It just kind of puts us in a different environment but same circumstances in a way. And so if we only do emotional intelligence work of like understanding how we feel, then we never gain the capacity to grow beyond just that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. This kind of leads to what I was talking about. I don't know if I talked about this Tuesday or last week, but like healing away from yourself. So sometimes the ways that we go about healing are also away from ourselves. So what really even gave me the awareness to talk about this is I was looking at the reviews or like people think pieces around the girl who made the video about jealousy. Hey, Coach T. And was talking about how jealous of her friend she was. And I made a post about this earlier. I've been having fun with figuring out different topics, because usually when I wake up in the morning, when I'm in the shower, I'll think about like, okay, I said I was going to go live today. What am I going to talk about? And I will get like kind of a gist. So I knew I was going to talk about emotional processing today. But then it kind of just unfolds. And it has been cool to see it unfold in a way that kind of connects to what I just talked about on Tuesday. Anywho, I seen the think pieces about friendship, jealousy, and things like that. And personally, I appreciated the girl video because of her level of awareness. But I think she got a lot of backlash because it wasn't just her awareness. It was her awareness coupled with obsession. And I think the obsession is what was off-putting and what made it toxic. But it was also because her obsession was external. Instead of doing the internal work of investigating, why do I feel jealous? And like on the surface level, she can say, I was jealous because my friend has an amazing life. She's a lawyer. She has all these great things going for herself, and I'm not experiencing that. Sure, on the surface, you can say that. But underneath that, there's some deeper layers she could have investigated or become obsessed about that would have benefited her. And it could have potentially saved the friendship if you have relationships that support emotional depth. And I think this goes to what I guess we've been talking about as far as like being seen versus exposed. She ended the friendship, in my opinion, because she was afraid that her friend was eventually going to start sensing this sense of resentment and jealousy, versus had she maybe felt vulnerable enough to have the conversation with her friend of like, our friendship is deeply triggering for me because this is, you know, my life. And her friend may have been able to hold space for that and also kind of help her unpack that, because I think in relationships we don't necessarily need people to process our emotions, but if you are in a relationship that holds space for you to feel your emotions and for you to do that processing, I think that leads to a deeper emotional connection, that leads to intimacy, and that strengthens y'all bond if you are able to hold space in that way. And I think by her ending the friendship, hey Megan, didn't even give the opportunity for that. And so you restricted the friendship, but you also restricted your own healing that could have happened in that. Hey, exclusiveness. So for those who just came in, I'm talking about emotional intelligence versus emotional depth, because often we think because we're emotionally aware that we have emotional depth, and they are two different things, because you can be aware of how you feel and still avoid your emotions. So the first topic I was going to talk about is emotional awareness, because the first step is awareness. The first step is saying, like, being able to acknowledge how you feel. But that is just the first step. So if we just stop at emotional intelligence and like, okay, I can identify how I feel, we don't really get to allow our emotion to be communication, because the initial emotion is just allowing us to receive information. Our emotions are messengers. And so if we just go off of, okay, I feel this way, without reading it, without digesting it, we miss the communication aspect of it. So first, in realizing you even feel a way, is noticing how it feels in your body, acknowledging where at in your body are you even feeling this emotion. I think this is also key to acknowledge, is this my emotion or is this someone else's? Is this an emotion that I have now been enmeshed with? Because sometimes that's also a part of it, is that we are processing, hey Dev, other people's emotions. Do I think that was the case with the girl being jealous? No. But because what brought this up was seeing that video about the girl being jealous of her friend. But acknowledging it within your body and then not reacting to it. Instead, allowing for you to respond to the emotion. Because often we can say, okay, I'm angry, I feel jealous, I'm sad about something, and then you want to do something about it. In her case, she ended the friendship because she like, oh, this is too triggering. I don't like the way this makes me feel. And also, I think too, I appreciate the fact that she ended the friendship, because a lot of people would have stayed in that friendship and just resented the person and had covert jealousy in it. I appreciate that she could say, this is too motherfucking uncomfortable, I'm getting out of here. Thank you, but no thank you. I can appreciate that. But I think too, it was also to her own disservice to do that, because she didn't dive deeper into like, okay, I'm feeling these things, this is triggering. Why am I jealous? Why am I being triggered? Hey lady. And I think that's the part where she reacted instead of responded. And to respond, you have to kind of give yourself room enough to feel it. You got to be able to sit with, okay, this is uncomfortable. I'm acknowledging that I'm jealous or I'm sad or I'm angry about something. And that's the awareness piece. So I can appreciate her awareness about it. Then I also think she became judgmental about her being jealous though. So like, okay, she acknowledged that this friendship is triggering and I'm jealous, but then it turned into probably judgment. And I think judgment will block your curiosity. So if you are automatically feeling like jealousy is a negative emotion, I don't want to feel that, let me cut this off. Hey Elle. or Eli, I'm sorry, then you lose it. You will block it off. And we've been talking about that, how shame blocks curiosity. And so if jealousy also makes you feel shameful, you're not going to do the deeper work of figuring out, why am I jealous? So to become curious instead of judgmental. So that covers the awareness piece. And I think a lot of people think that they have emotional intelligence just because judgment will block your curiosity. Yes. Just because they can spot the emotion, because a lot of people won't even know that they are jealous or won't acknowledge it. So I guess you get, kudos for acknowledging it. And I did want to talk about a little bit how I started to be more emotionally aware. I'm a little bit of a nerd, so I have a whole little folder. So this is an emotional code chart. So on the emotional code chart, it has the list of emotions. As you can see, it's been highlighted because I use it. Right. Awareness means nothing if you're not going to let it help you or expand you in any type of way. So with an emotional code chart, it has a list of emotions, but before you get to the list, you ask yourself certain questions. So the first question is there a trapped emotion I am now ready to release? This goes back to the body awareness. So when you ask this question, you're asking yourself and you wait for your body to respond. Your body will tell you if there's an emotion that you are now ready to release or have the capacity to release. After that, that's just a yes or a no. You will be able to feel the yes or no in your body. The next is it's a chart. You can download this chart online. I just downloaded it, printed it, and went and illuminated it. The next question is this trapped emotion in column A or column B? Because there is columns. You will feel the yes or no in your body. If you are not more in touch with your body to where you can feel the yes or no, you could also get a pendulum. The little crystal pendulums people sell. Personally, I think that's what pendulums are for, is to start building the relationship with your body and your subconscious or your nervous system, because that's really what is swaying the energy. Swaying the energy of the pendulum is your own nervous system. And so if you can start to feel that in your body, you won't need the pendulum. So the second question, which column? The third question is which row, which there's multiple rows. And then the fourth is determining which emotion is in which box. So it's column A, B, then there's all these rows, but then there's emotions in each column, which in each column, it just has the emotion that is in the same vibrational range of a certain emotion. And then the last is to decode the emotion. So now that you know what column, you know which row, now you have the list of emotions, and then you could choose how you feel. So in this one, I highlighted it. So it was discouragement and sadness the last time I did this. And so that affects your lungs and your colon. And that's also a good clue because it tells you where at in your body you will feel it. And therefore, you can sit with it, process it, direct your energy towards those organs. So that covers the emotional awareness. If you don't have any emotional intelligence or awareness, or you have difficulty naming the emotional code chart will help. Now, once you can do that, if you can do that on your own, you don't need the emotional code chart. You can identify how you feel Cool. You got emotional intelligence. Now, will you be able to actually feel it? Because that helps you identify it. It helps you identify it as far as naming the emotion and where it is in your body. But being able to process it and alchemize it is where we get to emotional depth. So, like, yes, you can have emotional intelligence and still avoid your feelings. So with emotional intelligence, that means, okay, you can understand the emotion. You can try to have a conversation about the emotion. So if it's a relationship, you're trying to communicate how you feel, all these things, and you're wondering why the other person is like, I don't know what you're talking about, you speaking a different language. Personally, I think a lot of the miscommunication is because you haven't really processed how you feel, and now you're expecting this person to. So you are expecting somebody to process an emotion that you yourself have rejected. And they're not going to know what you're talking about because you don't even know what you're talking about. Because you might be saying you made me feel sad when really you made me feel discouraged. So then there's a difference in how they will receive it, because those are two different languages. And personally, now that I feel like I have a level of emotional intelligence in depth, I like to be as vulnerable as possible. I will tell you exactly how I feel. One, because I'm not expecting you to process it for me, but also because I want to see how you handle my vulnerability. Like, I had a conflict with my sister, and instead of just saying, like, you made me feel sad, I said, you made me feel unloved and uncared for. That did not go well when I didn't need it to go well, because I had already sat with the feeling of feeling uncared for or unloved. So this leads me to the next part, which is why people struggle with emotional awareness or depth, is because of rejection. And I talk about this a lot, that the 3 hardest emotions to sit with or process are fear, guilt, and shame. If you can get into a good relationship with those 3 emotions, because I also think you build a relationship with emotions. You just don't have them. You are in relationship with them. And starting to build a better relationship is very similar to building a relationship with a person. Being curious. What do you like? What comforts me when I feel this? What triggers this emotion? Why do I have such a hard time with this emotion? The same you would with somebody you love. And personally, I think the more that you build the relationship with yourself and your own emotions, it also helps you build relationship with other people, because you know what questions to ask. You know how to be considerate around other people's tender spots too. And so the reason why people struggle with emotional awareness first is fear of rejection. That if I say something that is vulnerable, such as with the girl admitting that she's jealous, I can bet, I think in the video she said her friend had no idea that she felt that way. How much of a friendship and community are you in with this person if you can't also share those tender spots? Now, would it have been received if she just came out and said, I'm jealous of you? Probably not. But she could have told her friend, like, our relationship is deeply triggering and I'm struggling with this. If that was a friend that also had emotional depth, and if you want those type of relationships where you have emotional depth and intimacy, you're going to have to be vulnerable enough to say shit like that. Like, I'm triggered as fuck right now. And that's also how you will be able to gauge if people have the capacity to have that type of relationship. But you're not going to be able to if you don't have that type of relationship with yourself. So the second one is also shame. We've been talking a lot about shame. And shame is so hard to sit with and process, because on the other side of shame is also feeling unlovable. So if Something like jealousy also makes me feel a great deal of shame. If I express this, I also not only will feel rejected, I'll feel unlovable, that I'm unworthy, that I'm not valuable, that now I'm worthless in this relationship because I feel jealous. Which personally, you can see the feedback of the video and see how people are reacting to her saying this. Personally, I was more repulsed by like her obsession with it and like picking apart all the aspects of her life. Not so much that she said that she was jealous. And I think all the think pieces talking about how jealousy is not normal, I would question their self-awareness, because we all experience jealousy. It wouldn't be on the emotional code chart if it wasn't a regular, normal human emotion. Now, what do you do with that jealousy is when it becomes harmful. Of like, okay, maybe that's not natural. Which I think her obsession with her friend did become unnatural. But the jealousy in itself, but the obsession only came because you didn't investigate. So like now you're picking apart this person and trying to figure out, why is her life so easy? Why she got it so good? Instead of like, what? Wait a minute. Why is my life so hard? Why is this triggering? Why am I working so hard for this? But to pick apart somebody else is much easier than picking apart yourself, because then you're gonna have to reevaluate. Okay, my life's so hard. What did my mom and dad not do? What did they instill in me that has made me believe that in order for me to have, I gotta work hard. I gotta have a hard life in order to have a little. Those are the things you are going to have to unpack, and those are the things that are going to be uncomfortable, because you also may have to realize the people around you are affecting you in a way that's not beneficial to you. So it's easier to pick apart this person and then come to the conclusion that like, oh no, cool, this too triggering, I don't want to be in this relationship, when she probably should have ended some other relationships in her life that would have freed her up of this sense of not having, or that she has to have such a hard life. And then the last reason why people struggle with emotional depth, not awareness, is guilt. Now I gotta feel bad for feeling this way. And I think if you can unpack the shame and you can unpack why you believe that you got to work so hard, why your life is so hard, you could place the blame elsewhere. You're not having to like pack that blame on yourself to where now you feel guilty. Now you can distribute it to the places where it probably need to be, because we inherit our belief system. So if you start to unpack what you truly believe about what it means to have a beautiful life, a easeful life, a life that is free flowing, and you feel blessed, and you're not, nitpicking somebody else's life because you're content and happy in your own life, why don't you believe that? And that's what you got to unpack. But again, I think it goes back to having to really look at your ancestral beliefs and your ancestral patterns. You got to look at your mom and your daddy, they mama and they daddy. And that's a lot. Like, honestly, if we're talking about jealousy, I was thinking about this. Like, my healing journey and my spiritual journey calls for me to have a lot of comparison and jealousy in terms of like, damn God, why you on my head so bad? Like, why are you putting all of this on me? Especially when we talking about, which I've been talking about, family enmeshment. I feel that a lot of like, why am I the only one knowing that like we're enmeshed? This unhealthy. Like, you ain't waking nobody else up in the middle of the night saying shit. Like, no one else is getting these type of messages. And I felt a little resentful about how called I felt to do certain things, because I didn't really feel like I had much of a choice. I felt like, God damn, like, even if I tried to say no, I wouldn't be happy in the no either. And my conclusion to that, after digging deeper and asking the necessary questions, was, okay, would you be happy not knowing? Would you be happy? Would ignorance be bliss to you? And the answer to that is no. Because I experienced the ignorance is bliss, and I also wasn't happy in that. So, like, in other words, I feel like I was like, okay, shut your ass up. So it's like, okay, which one do you want? And I think even for the girl talking about her friend, if she was to really be honest, if you were to be thrown in that girl's, like, one, you really don't know what her life feels like. You can, on the outside looking in, feel like it's very easy. You don't know what that girl going through. You don't know her day to day. But I think trying to pick apart it is because you don't want to pick apart your own life. I feel like I went left with that. Anywho, going back to the guilt. If you start to, one, allow yourself to feel guilty about the things that I guess are uncomfortable, you also start to allow yourself to place that guilt where it belongs, because a lot of our guilt, shame, and fear is not even our own. It has been somebody else's ideas about what they believe. And I think as adults, and the free will that we get with adulthood and womanhood is being able to choose what we believe now. Because as kids, we don't have that option. We're born into it. And so we gonna go along to get along. And I think even as kids, a lot of the time we know that, like, okay, something is not right here. But we don't also have the autonomy to do anything about it. So that's that. So instead of sitting with that shame, guilt, or fear, instead we intellectualize it, we disassociate, we people please, we overfunction, or we numb. Hey, Mimi. So with intellectualizing, that's how you get to a place where, okay, now you got an emotional IQ. You know how you feel. You can understand how you feel. But it's not moving beyond the mental body. It's not coming into your literal body. It's or it's not even being processed in your emotional body. Which, that's kind of what I was thought I was going to talk about this morning. Is we have 4 bodies, technically. We have our mental body, our emotional body, our spiritual body, and then our actual physical body. And in order for us to get to a place of true healing, whatever it is that we're healing from, we're going to have to address it in all 3 areas, because in order for it to show up in our body and into our reality, because also our body is connected to our reality and to the earth realm. In order for it to get to that, that's the last layer, which means it already existed spiritually. It already existed mentally. It already existed emotionally. And I think that's how we also get stuck a lot of the time, is because we're trying to heal the symptom. The body once it's coming up into our reality and into our body, that's symptomatic. So unless you're going to go back to those layers, like, okay, how is this showing up in my emotional body? How is this showing up in my mental body? How is this showing up spiritually? Hey, Ariane. Then you're never going to really heal it, because you don't even know what body you are equipped or have the capacity to handle. And so we never really get to the root of it. And that's where we get stuck, because the emotional intelligence tells us our reality. It tells us mentally we can see, perceive, this is what's going on. I have a good understanding, but you have no idea how it's also impacting you in those 3 body parts. And until you allow the emotions to become messengers, we will be lost. We will be lost. So it's our mind. If we look at the emotions as a messenger, think of it as first is the mind. Our mind has a belief about something. So if I'm going to use the jealous friendship viral clip that's going on as an example, she has a belief of lack. You could hear it in how she was talking about, like, everything is so easy for her. Everything is, perfect. And that's my dream life. Really, why don't you believe that you could have that? It would have to go back to a thinking of hardship, of lack, of scarcity. That's the belief. That's the mind. The mind communicates through our nervous system. Our nervous system connects through emotion. Or communicates through emotion. So it's the mind, the nervous system, the body. So in this case, the mind is triggering the belief of scarcity, which then connects it to jealousy. Probably because jealousy is the emotion she's used to. More than likely, she got a jealous mama. If you come in contact with a jealous woman, it's because her mama also has traits of jealousy. It's a learned behavior. So automatically from scarcity goes to jealousy, and then the nervous system now feels inadequate. They're like, okay, we don't have enough. We feel inadequate. So either we're going to withdraw, to freeze, to like let's gather ourselves and like restore our sense of safety, or I'm going to siphon people energy because we feel inadequate. That's the nervous system's communication. And then the body feels this unmet desire. So it's the mind, the nervous system, the body. And those are 3 emotions now: jealousy, inadequacy, and unmet desire. You do not have to have a good relationship with every single emotion. Out of those 3, you more than likely have a better relationship with one of those. So if you don't have a good relationship with jealousy, fine. Inadequacy. Do you have a better relationship with inadequacy? As in, I know how to treat an inadequacy. If I feel like I don't have enough, what do I do instead? Do I just accept the inadequacy, or do I then make some changes? Do I then go after it? Which personally, I think she was more in her masculine energy of feeling like she has to force and do things. And that's probably how she's reacting with that inadequacy. And then with the unmet desire, how do I process unmet desire? All of this is based off of her belief of not having. But if you have an unmet desire, think about how can you treat that unmet desire. Can you sit with that better than you can jealousy? Can you sit with inadequacy better than you can jealousy? Which for her, I think she felt more comfortable with the jealousy, which is why she's able to talk about it. She didn't talk about feeling inadequate. She didn't talk about having an unmet desire, because those are the 2 emotions that are most difficult for her. So I did this on my own too, with the emotional code chart. This is how I really started to work through my abandonment wounds. Out of abandonment, the 3 core emotions are neglect, rejection, or loneliness. Out of those 3 emotions, I don't do well with rejection. I don't do well with neglect, or at least when I started, I do well with loneliness, because even when I am in relationships, or I was in relationship with people, I still felt a sense of loneliness. I still didn't really feel understood. I still didn't really feel considered. And so I already had a system in place to deal with the feeling of loneliness. And so that's the emotion I focused on. But like I was saying on the emotional code chart, there's a list of emotions, and they're all within the same energetic range. So because rejection, neglect, and loneliness are all within the same emotional range, if I address the loneliness, because that's the emotion I actually know how to process, I could sit with that, I can treat that. That's also going to take care of the neglect and the rejection. And the girl case of the jealousy, inadequacy, and unmet desire, in my opinion, she didn't really do anything about the jealousy. She got out of the relationship, which, in my opinion, she gets into another friendship or a relationship, period, because it could even be with family or a romantic partner. She gets into another relationship that's triggering, she's also going to experience jealousy again, because she did that. Might be the emotion she's most comfortable with, but she's still not really processing it. She's still not really unpacking it. Because if she had really processed and unpacked the jealousy, she would have been able to identify, oh, this makes me feel inadequate. Oh, this makes me feel like I can't accomplish this. So really, at the root of it, in my opinion, again, I'm not a therapist or nothing, in my opinion, as just an observer, what that revealed was low self-worth. And also, it's easier to say, okay, I'm jealous about this friend and all the great things she has going for her in her life, versus saying, I have low self-worth. I don't think highly of myself. I don't think that I'm worthy of a easeful, abundant, beautiful life. I don't feel worthy of that. Had she came online and expressed that feeling of unworthiness and expressed maybe even feeling like as an unmet desire or inadequate, I think she would have got a different response. And I feel like the responses were kind of half and half. Some people felt like they appreciated her self-awareness and like talking about it. And then other people were like, oh no, jealousy is unnormal. That's unnatural. And it's just like, okay. So then when you get into relationships with people and you start to experience jealousy, or that person is experiencing jealousy, you'll avoid it, or you'll cut that person off. And I do think with jealousy can be something that show up in a relationship and it be repaired if you are able to have emotional depth, not just intelligence. If you are just going to rest on the fact of saying like, okay, that made me feel jealous, and not dive any deeper, then yeah, we're gonna have to end this friendship, because you're gonna have to unpack that deeper than that. And that's one thing that I can say is a benefit about being in a relationship with me. And I know I bring into people's lives whether you consider it to be beneficial or not, because I feel like it can't be deeply triggering, but I ask questions because I'm a very curious person. I want to know, and I don't just want to know because I'm nosy. I'm wanting to know because I'm just a deep thinker. I don't know. Like, it helps if I can feel like I understand, we are connected with each other, there's a level of emotional depth and intimacy, then that's where I feel at home. If we are only able to like exchange on a surface level, I'm probably more than likely going to be very drawn and probably short, and I'm not very good at short talk or like short conversations. So like, I know in relationships that it's a benefit that like you don't want somebody to ask you deeper questions. I know, lady, you like to, and it's refreshing being in community with you and building a relationship with you. Because even Saturday when I came into your live, I knew how I felt already. But it was the questions you asked that allowed me to dive deeper. Of like, okay, I know shame is coming up for me right now, and because I have a good relationship with shame, where like I'm not ashamed to say I feel shame right now. But unpacking it, those are the friendships and relationships I thrive in. Hey, Chef Raquel, because it allows me to grow. It allows me to see a different aspect of myself. And when it comes to jealousy, something else that I had to recognize within myself is that one of the things that I feel like I had to unpack about jealousy with women in particular is I would have a affliction, which then I realized, no, this is jealousy. It's not just affliction of women who are kind of like a damsel in distress. Of like, I don't know what's going on. I need people to like tell me what to do, and kind of just be like aloof in a way. Going back to what I was even saying about my spiritual journey. So like, why am I forced to see and feel and do things in this way, and then other people are just like, ignorance is bliss? I don't know what you talking about. And when I unpacked that, it was because one, I don't like the responsibility. I feel jealous when people lose weight fast. That's so. Yeah, I had to start looking at it as a privilege, but I think because it felt heavy and I didn't want the heaviness. I wasn't willing to sit with the heaviness and the responsibility of being responsible for yourself. Because I think to also be a damsel in distress, you also have to relinquish a certain level of responsibility and sovereignty in a way. And unpacking that is like, well, are you willing to do that? No, I would be fighting for that. I would be fighting for my independence too. So it's like, you can't have both, girl. So like, you know, is it a privilege? Yes. That's so hard for me to know shit, watch people in distress, and not be able to affect change. Yeah. I think to watch people in distress and to know that they know that they're in distress and that there is a solution, but like you want somebody else to solve it for you, I think is very also triggering. Of like, you know, like you know you could get out of this, right? Like you just want to stay in this. Is confusing. Like why would you want to do that? But I think too it triggers jealousy of like, damn, why I always gotta figure out my own shit. But the remedy to that, for me anyway, was, you know what? I'm giving this to you, guys. I don't have to figure everything out. Because I think that also revealed scarcity in a way of a lack of faith. And so like, no, I'm not relying on a man or a human being to solve my problems. I'm relying on God to solve my problems, as in like to tell me and give me direction. And so instead of expecting someone to swoop in and save me from myself, I'm expecting God to give me some type of insight. And what I have learned, like I was talking the other day, is taking a pause until I get some level of insight or guidance so that I can take the steps necessary for myself. Which I ain't here talking about. I'm definitely jealous of people with financial support from their families. You know, I experienced that. Well, not financial support, but because of everything I've been going through with my family and my sisters, I was talking to a good friend of mine this weekend, and we have similar backgrounds in a way of like upbringing, and her and her sister have a really beautiful relationship, and she was y'all business. She was talking to me about her sister, and her sister have a beautiful relationship. And I could have easily been like jealous about that. But instead, especially this friend in particular, she has a way of guiding or showing me something about myself that is just very loving, that I trust her. That's another aspect of it, is that like I think you tend to lean towards jealousy if you don't trust the person, because you don't give them the benefit of the doubt, or you don't see them in a good light in a way. So like that pick apart aspect, I think in order for you to arrive at jealousy first, is because you already have a perception of this person. So like really, y'all probably should have never been friends in the first place, because when you met them, you probably feel like, oh, she thinks she better or whatever. But I feel like you probably should have never been in that relationship to begin with, because in order for me to be friends with somebody, I already think highly of you. Because one, I don't meet friends easily, and I don't if I don't like somebody, I just don't like you. Like, I'm not going to fake it. Like, how I said, I'm not very good at like small talk. So like there will be no build up to a friendship if I don't like you, if that makes sense. So like if I'm withdrawn, it may not even be because I dislike you. It may just be because I don't feel aligned, or there's no sense of like attraction in that way. But if we become friends, it's because I think highly of you already. And so when she was telling me about her sister, now I'm going off track, it made me think like, yeah, it's possible. So like when I'm asking of my sisters and why we're in conflict, it's not unnatural to say like, this is unhealthy, I want to repair this, I feel unloved or unsupported or uncared for, because I see it in like, I see that it's possible. And so instead of saying like looking at her and her sister relationship was like, nah, y'all too close or that's weird. No, I think it's beautiful, and that's giving me a real life example of what is possible between sisters. And I think that's the difference between, I guess, being jealous or inspired, because I felt more inspired that like that's actually the type of relationship I would like to have with my sisters, and that's the type of relating to people and women I want and I desire. And so it's good for me to see it. Even me and this particular friend, I'm gonna post this on YouTube if you're watching. Hey girl, we always joke about like men of like who gonna go first, because we need to see a good example of what it means to be in a relationship with an honorable man, because I don't know any honorable men in my personal life, and so I need to see my friend being loved on by a honorable man to even get into my head that that's possible. And we joke about that, like, yeah girl, you gotta go first, because how I feel right now, I don't know. I don't, not that I've lost hope, but I just feel like, it sounds like a unicorn. And she always is like, girl, you're a unicorn. So like, even if you think like, oh, this man would have to be a unicorn, you're a unicorn. So like, that's what you would attract anyway. But anywho, going off. I love a unicorn. I love a mermaid. That's my instead of unicorn. But I think it's kind of I'm a siren in a way. I love a mermaid. I was just having this conversation with a friend last night. So I wanted to leave y'all with 3 questions to ask yourself when you are experiencing a difficult emotion, because this will also help you unpack. If you think of emotions as messengers, and think of, you are always protecting yourself. There's nothing coming up. There's nothing being mirrored back to you. There's nothing that you are experiencing that is not in your best favor. At least mentally, that's what you believe, that this is in my best favor. If I am feeling this emotion, it is to protect me. So what is this emotion protecting? So if we're using an example of the girl being jealous of her friend, has she asked, what is this jealousy protecting? Because on the layer is jealousy. If she would have unpacked deeper and unlocked what unlocked the door with jealousy being the key, she would have got to the inadequacy and unmet desire. So like, there's always something underneath that. So like, if whatever you're feeling first, it's never really truly what it is. There's always something deeper to it. And I think if you allow yourself to go deeper, that's how you build your capacity. Because emotional intelligence is about understanding. Emotional depth is about capacity building. Two different conversations. And it's okay to know where you at with that. Excuse me. Know where you at with that. Of like, I haven't even got to the point where I know how I feel. Okay, great. That means I need to work on my emotional intelligence. The emotional code chart would be greatly beneficial if that's the case. If you now can name the emotion, then you have to move into depth. This is how I'm going to build my capacity. Because the thing about capacity, and this conversation kind of get on my nerves a little bit when people say, I don't have the capacity for that. I don't have the capacity is a choice. So like, if we're all going to say we don't have the capacity, we're never going to grow. We're never going to grow. You're just going to have to choose to say, okay, this feels heavy, this feels difficult. And so when it feels that way, that means you're at capacity. Then you're going to have to decide, okay, I'm at my capacity. Evaluate what that capacity is, because it may not even be shit. Like, you saying you at capacity, and your capacity is a gulp of water, and you can get up to a whole glass. You done took a sip and like, ooh, I'm full. I can't take no more. It's like, okay, that's your capacity, and you gonna be okay with that? Okay. But you can say, okay, I took this sip, I'm a little full, but let me go pee real quick and let me gauge what's happening here, so I could release some things, so I could build my capacity. Let this awareness, this intelligence, actually let me grow. Because we're not going to grow just from intelligence or awareness. We can only really grow from capacity building. So that's a good question to ask yourself. What is this emotion protecting? Even with shame, because nobody wants to feel shame. And do I got any time? I don't know why I can only, well, I do know, because I don't have that many followers, but I feel like maybe I'll come back and if it cuts off, I'll just come back. Because I just got done listening to the R. Kelly. I don't want to keep calling her the R. Kelly girl. That's disrespectful. Rashonda Landfield or something like that. Excuse me if I'm saying her name wrong. I just got done listening to, I'm not completely done. I still got like 10 minutes left. Listening to her book. I'll listen to it all day. All the people should be in jail, including her parents. But I was so like proud of the way that she was able to tell the story, because she talked about how it was just so shameful that like, no, she wasn't gonna be on that documentary they did. Like she didn't even know about the documentary until it aired. But she was saying she was in hiding all this time because of how shameful it was. If you can even put yourself in her shoes for a minute, that like for years, because I was all the way in California at 15 knowing about the R. Kelly tape. So can you imagine the people in Chicago that are her friends, people she went to high school, seeing the tape and like, oh, that's Rashonda. So to everybody, she's known as the girl that R. Kelly pissed on. That's a level of shame that not a lot of people can come back from. And the fact that she still has her wits about her, she was able to write a book, she's been doing interviews, is amazing. And I think for anybody that really struggles with shame, should read her book, because I think it's inspiring that like she could go through that and be so public about her healing, that if you are processing shame, I think that could be a source of inspiration to like unpack it. And the ways that she unpacked the book, especially at the end, because she talks about when she had to testify. I'm gonna listen to that. Monica Lewinsky's TED Talk. She talked about how when she had to testify, how she also had to talk about how she's still been in contact with him even after, they broke up, and as in like recent years, up until him going to jail. And she had to like realize just how kind of fucked up in the head she been. And it's one thing to do that unpacking personally, but to do that unpacking publicly and to write a book and to be on interviews, I think she's going to inspire a lot of people. I'm inspired of like that I could not imagine. And again, I'm kind of a nerd. I like to study patterns of shame, and I've been doing this since I was a kid because both of my parents struggled with substance abuse. And so as a kid, I always used to watch what was that show on A&E about addiction? I was always intrigued about substance abuse and intervention, yeah. And even a couple of years ago, I was like obsessed watching Soft White Underbelly interviews. And it wasn't until probably I started unpacking shame until I realized that is why I've been so intrigued about watching this shit. Because especially the Soft White Underbelly interviews, most of those people's stories sound a lot like mine. And I would be really intrigued of like, how are they different from me? Like, it could have easily been me. And it always gave me a sense of gratitude for whomever walks with me, over me, protects me. because me and my siblings, we have had favor over our lives in a way that I don't think I could explain. Oh, I'm not gonna get on here crying, but watching those videos always make me feel like this could have easily been me. Even listening to her book, it could have easily been me at 14, 15. Easily. That level of naivety is not rare at 14, 15. And for that to have happened to her, and have so much shame around it, is the fact that she was able to overcome that is amazing. I had 2 more questions that I was gonna leave y'all with, because now I feel like I gotta go cry. The second question: what desire is being revealed? So usually with whatever emotion that comes up, okay, that might be protecting something underneath it. Once you get to the root emotion, there's also a desire attached to it. And once we can identify the desire, we could do something about it, which is so the last question of how can I embrace this desire? So if the last emotion that you get to, say, is sadness, okay, you initially ask, what is this anger protecting me from? You unpack it, you get to sadness. Okay, what is the desire that is being revealed with the sadness? I want connection. Okay, how can I embrace this desire for connection? I need a hug right now. I need some level of oxytocin. We've been talking about oxytocin. I need some level of connection. And so then you can embrace that. And so it becomes less about the anger. It becomes less about the sadness. Instead, you now know what you want. Because really the sadness and the anger is because you want something that you feel like is not being met. And then you can get that even if you are giving it to yourself. Say the hug, go wrap yourself up in a weighted blanket and affirm to yourself that I am loved, I am protected, and I have beauty in my life. While wrapping yourself up in this weighted blanket, it will make you feel better. So that is it. That is all. Thank y'all for being here. Hopefully this was helpful. I'm going to upload it on YouTube, hopefully, because last time I was on here Tuesday, it only saved 42 minutes, so it kind of cut off the end part of it. So if you want to go back and rewatch it, if you came in at the end or the middle, or just want to rewatch it for your own, research purposes, you can. Thank y'all. I'll be back next Tuesday. I don't know what I'm going to be talking about. I feel like this is keep unpacking this whole oxytocin and dopamine conversation, so we shall see. But love y'all. Talk to you later.